Good evening, and welcome to the Caring View, the online health and social care platform free to access to absolutely everybody. Before we get started, do not forget to hit that like button, give that subscribe button a hit. You're probably watching us on one of our many social channels on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Twitch, Insta, YouTube. Maybe you're old school, maybe you're one of our originals and you're watching us over on YouTube. Absolutely fab. Just make sure you give us a follow. That way you will never miss out on any of our episodes moving forwards. www.thecaringview.co.uk for all of our free resources, podcast episodes, chat show episodes, all about our sponsors and our suppliers, proudly sponsored by Jack AI. Everything we do at the Caring View is free, completely free, will never cost you a dime, and if I do start charging you at some point in the future, I give you permission to sue me. So note to self, I'm never going to charge you. The only reason we can do the Caring View for free is because we have some fabulous sponsors who provide us with money that keep the lights on, keep us going, and allow us to continue this journey of educating, elevating, and celebrating all things social care. So without further ado, we have Prosperwell, the UK's leading digital marketing agency, www.prosperwell.co.uk. If you know Toby, Tea with Toby, Smooth Toby, go check out Prosperwell. They are there to support you with all of your marketing needs. CBAT, when he is not in his tighty whities, muscle showing on the stage, Paul is the mastermind behind Care Business Associate training. For all of your healthcare training requirements, CBAT can provide every training course that you need, and they are fabulous. I use them across our services across the country, and they are fabulous, and I fully recommend them. We have Attis Care by Attis Insurance Brokers, comprehensive care coverage and proactive risk management. They are more than just insurance brokers. They are a helpful voice at the end of the line. Mark, thank God you've joined us tonight. We have Log My Care, the intuitive care platform loved by complex providers around the country, and they do offer a freemium version. We got this confirmed by Sam Hussein a couple of weeks ago on the show. There is more. We have Health Automated online and Learning Runs online. Brainchild of Jack White, who also is Jack AI, which powers our website. And then we have Florence. We have one more after this, and it's a special one after this, I promise you. We have Florence, directly connecting healthcare professionals and organizations with shifts and training around the country. Fabulous alternative to agencies. We hate agencies. Agencies cost and they send us rubbish people and they're not managed effectively. So we don't want agencies. Use Florence. They're amazing. And we have one brand new sponsor coming on tonight, and you will know the mastermind behind this company. It is Nicola Holmes, and it is Every Step Care Consultancy, transforming care services with tailored consultancy, turnaround management, coaching, and compliance support. www.everystepcare.com. Nicola is a regular guest on this show, a regular audience member on this show, and an all-around fabulous person. So please do go check out everystepcare.com. Good evening, Mark, and how are you?
Yes, not too bad. You?
I'm good, thank you very much. I'm glad that intro's out of the way now. I need to try and get lazy on this. I need to figure out a way where I can just like hold placards because it takes so long.
So what's happening? What's going to happen when you get more sponsors on board, fellas? It's going to be
well, you know, this is it. When we're like sort of, we're just gonna have to have like placards everywhere and like sell inches of the screen and stuff like that to make it easier for people.
It'll just be like the end of a radio commercial where they talk really quick.
No,
I'd love to do it like the shipping forecast. Wouldn't that be like great? Do you know, like just like the shipping forecast, and it's just that sort of ASMR, Every Step Care Consultant with their. It'd be so good. Or like the football scores. You know, I don't like that. Not that I follow football, but I just love that sort of monotonous, sort of reeling off of information. Yes, no, I'm good, Mark. I was ill this weekend. Can you believe I had flu? I'm sure it was flu. It was terrible. I couldn't taste, couldn't smell, couldn't get out of bed. 2 days. I lost it. Awful. But, and I have to tell everyone this. So if anyone's planning on getting married, I was at a wedding on Friday, and I'm like skinny and fabulous now, so I can wear like what I want. And I wore like this wonderful sheer shirt, so it was like completely see-through. It was like 30 degrees, so actually it was a godsend on the day. But they didn't offer out wedding favors at this wedding. Instead, they hired a tattoo van. And I am not kidding you. They just gave the guests free tattoos who came to the wedding. It was the most amazing thing ever. And I fully recommend, if you are getting married and you don't know what to do for favors, hire a tattoo van to give your guests tattoos. Because I can tell you now, the thing for me is, I mean, I got an ice cream cone. I won't tell you where, but I got an ice cream cone. you'll always remember where you got that tattoo from, and it's like, oh, it's from such and such's wedding. Remember that?
It's
Oh,
asking for fallouts, that.
Well, honestly, tattoos in women with alcohol. I managed to convince my mum to get one, and my mum's never had a tattoo in her life. She's like, "Oh no, tattoos! They're so common. They're trashy." And I was like, "You're right, tramp. Now you've got ink on your skin. One of us commoners, eh?" Honestly, so I just had to get that out there. Get a tattoo van for your weddings. They're fabulous.
What I would have done is I'd have just paid the tattooist extra just to put like my initials and Alice's initials on everybody.
Oh, can you imagine?
Hey, you want an ice cream? Empty.
Can you imagine if it was just attended such and such's wedding? Attended such and such's
Just
like,
the
branded. Honest to gosh. Right, tonight, I am not going to lie, I am completely out of my depth with tonight's show, which is probably the reason why I'm here listening. I am going to be learning. I think everyone else is going to be learning whilst we are going through this. But tonight we are talking around understanding bids and tenders in social care, and who better to come and talk to us about bids and tenders in social care than www.bespokebids.com. Henry, Katie, welcome to the show. I'm going to come to you both and just ask you to do a quick introduction for us, and then I'm going to hand it over to Mark to get us started. So I'm going to start with Katie. Tell us a bit about who you are and where you're from.
So my name is Katie Haddock. I'm the head of bids for care sector bids at Bespoke Bids. And I have almost 8 years experience in the bid sector, in bid management, both in-house and on a consultancy basis. I've specialised in care sector bids, both in care sector recruitment and in health and social care for the past 3.5 years now. I manage one of our teams here at Bespoke Bids that specialise in the health and social care sector.
Fabulous. Welcome to the show, Katie. Full of knowledge already. I'm already assured that I am going to learn stuff tonight. Henry, good evening. Welcome to the show. Tell us a bit about who you are and where you're from.
I'm sweating a bit now, Katie. My resume is not half as good as that. My name's Henry. I am the business development manager at Bespoke Bids. I've got 2 years experience working for the company, and my role is partnership development, working with our clients closely to sort of help grow their business through public sector tenders.
Fantastic. Thank you, Henry. Both equally impressive resumes. Let's not be measuring our resume appendages here. I think we are both equally qualified, which is fabulous. Mark, I don't know whether that was a dog or a kid in the background. I think too much cake and sugar on a birthday. But over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. It was a dog. Everybody is piling in home, but hopefully it blocks out the background noise other than the dog. Yeah, so thank you very much, both of you, for giving up your Tuesday evening to come and join us for this. And I think it's one of the shows that is probably one of the most requested, and we've struggled to find somebody that we think would do it justice in terms of having that conversation. And we bumped into you guys at a trade show, and it's been, must be about 6 months kind of in the making. But we're going to kind of spend tonight talking about how we can understand bids and tenders in social care, the elements of preparing for a bid, how providers can avoid some of those common pitfalls. I'm keen to talk about kind of AI and bids and social care and tenders and what to do and not to do. So I guess for me, the first question is, what makes a bid stand out from a competitor? And I think with that in mind, if you can just bring in that AI element, because I'd presume that AI just makes it very generic and you can probably pick it out from a crowd. But how do you make your bid stand out from another provider?
So, I mean, I'll take this to begin with, Katie. I would say that the main thing that you're looking for as a provider, obviously, the public sector market is a very competitive market. You are bidding against other companies within that particular bid. And in order to make your bid stand out, there has got to be a real emphasis on sort of making your responses tailored specifically towards your company. You have to paint the narrative. You're not just answering generic responses, for each of the questions. There has to be some sort of relationship back to you guys as the client. There has to be some sort of expression of your innovation and how you can address those sections and make it completely stand out from, anybody who's just going to put forward generic answers. It's just not going to wash well with the evaluators. I mean, linking that to AI, we're aware of AI. It's something that we keep an eye on. It's not something that we sort of dismiss. We're aware of its capabilities and you know, its rapid growth and development, you know, even in the past, you know, year to 2 years. What we find with AI currently is it's not at the standard that I think people think it needs to be at in terms of using it for bid submissions. I'm sure Katie can probably expand on this a little bit more, but from what we've seen in our personal experiences here at the company, if a client has either used AI to draft any of their responses, or if they've used AI to, I don't know, submit the entire tender response, you can pretty much see it from the get-go that AI has been used as a tool. And the writing just isn't quite up to scratch. It doesn't possess that element of personality. It doesn't possess you know, the areas in which, like I said in the beginning, you need to be answering the questions. They need to be tailored specifically towards your company. I think AI just hasn't quite got it on that personal human level that maybe we could have if you work collaboratively, either through yourselves or through a company like ourselves. So that, I would say, is my personal experience. I'm sure obviously Katie's got more on that.
Yeah, so when we work with clients, obviously we run a collaborative approach where we formulate their expertise, their industry knowledge and experience into a bid specific format. So we'll work together to develop their knowledge into a bid appropriate format, into the format that the evaluators are looking for, that's going to give the assurances that they're capable and they're the best person suited to deliver that work. So what we're looking for in terms of making them stand out from competitors is evidence, evidence, evidence. So we want as much detail as possible that sets them apart from others in the sector in terms of added value, in terms of their offering, demonstrating that they thoroughly understand what it is that they need to do, what the solution that the buyer is looking for is. And then we articulate that into the language, into the kind of format that the buyer wants to see. So in order to get that kind of specific approach, AI just is not there yet. It is a really good research tool, so it can be helpful to get things moving in terms of utilising it for brainstorming or for kind of getting quick sort of sense checks of information. But in terms of submitting a bid response, it's too generic and it doesn't have the capabilities, it doesn't have the data-driven approach that's needed in order to win bid submissions. When we work with clients who've used AI, we see that immediately. So the second we open their response, the second we look at the information that they've sent us, we know instantly if they've used AI. And so the evaluators will as well. They'll know that this person has used AI, and what they'll be thinking is, well, if they've needed to use this tool, if they can't articulate this process in their own language, they clearly don't understand this well enough to be able to deliver the solution. As well as kind of being visible to us in terms of formatting, in terms of the language that AI uses, there's also metadata from AI, which can be identified by some of the more advanced buyers. And on a lot of tenders, the AI can be banned. So they've been asked not to use it, or they've been asked to declare it specifically how to use, which answers that it was used in. And if they don't do that, or if they try and kind of pull the wool over the buyer's eyes, that can immediately result in them being kicked out of the tender. So it is a useful tool for research, but it's not a solution to deliver a bespoke response.
No, thank you very much. And I'm pleased you mentioned about that you can be disqualified, because I was involved in a couple of tenders for my organisation at the tail end of last year. And both of them had very clearly that if they thought that you'd used AI, you'd be disqualified from that process. So
yeah, following the new procurement regulations that came out recently, there is now, I've noticed when I've been assessing and analysing tenders, there is now a section within the standard selection questionnaire where you declare whether you are going to use AI as a tool or whether you're going to use it in any element or section of the bid. And as Katie stated before, that is because they want to know whether providers are going to lean on it or whether if they have the capabilities to do it themselves or not. So it is very much it's very much in the center of the evaluation criteria for the buyers that are going to be assessing these tenders. So if you are going to use it, or if you're going to consider using it, you use it very much as a tool and something that can benefit you. not as something as a solution.
Thank you. Adam, any thoughts on that? You're on mute.
Right. let's take this back about 10 steps, right? And treat me like I don't know anything about bids and tenders. Okay. So we're going to have people listening who won't have a clue what we're talking about. So what sort of things are we bidding and tendering for in social care? Let's just so that for me and the uneducated, we've got that sort of, so when we move forward with the conversation tonight, I'm fully on it. So what are we bidding and tendering for? Because the only bids and tenders we've done, or I've done in the past, because again, quality, not ops, and small company prior to, was care packages. And we would like bid and tender for care packages. This is what we can offer, and this is how we can do it.
Yeah.
I'm presuming you're not out there helping people bid for care packages. So maybe you are. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But what are we talking about when we're talking bids and tenders?
So in terms of so the bid and a tender, let's say for argument's sake that you are a health and social care company, you provide domiciliary care services in the London Borough of Hackney. Okay, the vast majority of the spend in the health and social care is public. So tenders are more or less the only way for care providers to secure work, and especially the only way to secure work through the NHS. So if you're a domiciliary care provider in Hackney, the London Borough of Hackney will release a home care or a domiciliary care contract that they will put out to tender, where they will select suppliers on the basis of merit, so usually quality or price, against others similar providers. And essentially, you will need to bid for that tender in order to potentially gain access to the framework, which is where you can then gain access to the care packages that come off the back of that framework. That's just that's one very niche example.
Yeah. So basically, what a tender is, if you're unfamiliar with the kind of term or the approach, it's basically a process of procurement. So within the public sector, all procurement has to be fair and it has to be available to access by everyone, basically. So if you want to get work from a public sector body, that work has to be announced publicly. It has to be made available for people to put in their proposal as to why they should be the person to deliver that work. And then it also has to be evaluated by a team of evaluators who are operating exactly as they've said they will in the documentation. So the things that make up a tender is usually it would be what we refer to as an ITT document, so an invitation to tender, and it's a document that sets out absolutely everything that the tender covers, what they're looking for, what questions they're asking you, how they're going to evaluate it, and how you need to respond. So usually it's an online portal that you need to fill in. Within the ITT, the tender will be broken down into sections. So you'll usually have a quality, price, social value split. Social value tends to be about 10%, and that's usually either a couple of questions or it's a portal online that you need to fill in. Price, you'll typically just fill in a pricing document that they've put together. And then for the quality, which normally makes up the largest percentage of the evaluation, you'll need to answer essay-style questions and provide evidence to support why you're the best person to deliver the work that they're looking for. And that can either be as part of a framework, so a group of people who are pre-approved to deliver care packages, or it can be as part of a dynamic purchasing system, so that can be kind of an unlimited number of people that can access care packages, or sometimes it can be single supplier, so they'll put up a proposal for the work that they need, and one person is going to win that work, and that'll be for a set number of years. There's quite a lot of very different ways to access work, and it typically depends on the type of work, the scale of the work, and where it is and what it's for. So whether it's supported living, whether it's extra care, whether it's domiciliary care, all of that affects exactly how they're going to procure.
So this sounds, my very simple brain. This sounds very much like when you apply for grant funding. So like there might be some research going on, and like, we need to go and do this, we need to go and do that. Who can do this? Who can do that? And you go, well, we can offer this, and this, and we'd be able to use this, and this, and this is how it. very similar, if not the
It's
same.
exactly the same process. It's exactly the same process across all different sectors. So we do grant funding as well. We do a lot of different sectors. We do specialise in health and social care, but we also do education, and the process is exactly the same. So that's like funding for skills boot camps, that type of thing. But the process is typically very similar because public sector procurement is so highly legislated, and the new Procurement Act 2023 kind of sets the expectations for how every public sector body needs to operate. All tender processes tend to be the same, and they tend to be heavily convoluted. So it can be quite difficult to understand for a layman.
Okay, so I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'm going to come to Mark, because you just said public sector tendering is quite complex, and well, we know how much bureaucracy there is there. Is there private sector tendering? If so, what's the difference?
Yeah, there is. So in terms of the differences between public and private sector tendering, we have a really good article about this on our website in terms of what the differences are. Main difference is that the legislation is much stricter in the public sector. The kind of rules around how the procurement should work are really strict. In the private sector, because it is private companies and because they're procuring work kind of however they see fit within a sort of set of parameters that's not as heavily controlled, they can operate that process differently. They don't have to treat everyone fairly. They can have kind of preferential treatment for people that they've worked with previously. They don't always have to follow the process that they've outlined in the tender documents. So they could put together a private sector tender, they could have multiple people submit proposals, and then they might just decide that they don't actually want to do that, cancel the whole thing and just give the contract to someone specifically. So within the private sector, they don't have to use a tender process at all. So when they do, it can be a little bit cowboys.
Sounds like Matt Hancock, that.
I have had experience with private sector bids with clients where that has happened. It's been put out to tender, but they're almost banking on the fact that it's going to go to the incumbent. That stuff like that has happened. So, public sector is much more transparent and fair in that respect.
Interesting, Mark.
Yes, just a very quick question. In terms of knowing when a tender's going to come out, what would be your recommendation in terms of, can you subscribe to anything? What's the best website to use to stay up to date?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We do have our own tender portal that we've got out at the moment that is live. It's called BidUp. I wish I had a link to hand now that I could send to you. You could put it in the chat. I don't. I'm going to get a telling off for that later, I'm sure. But so we have our own tender search and sourcing portal that we operate. And that would be my advice to the people listening or watching right now is get yourself signed up on that. It's completely free to use. There's no catches on it. And from there, you're able to navigate the website. You're able to import, certain keywords or criteria. So, if you're looking for example, extra care or home care, domiciliary care, you can filter your searches down and you can then run a search. You can filter it down to geographical locations and whatnot. And that would be my advice. If you are somebody who's looking to get into this or maybe gain an understanding of the market in relation to your company, then that is the best way to go is to do your tender search through the BidUp portal. It's easy to use. It's a very user-friendly setup. And yeah, that would be my advice. Obviously, we're happy to consult you as well. I do it for a lot of our clients, where we help the clients sort of identify their target market. But for somebody who's trying to do it maybe once a day, once a week, getting yourself set up and getting an account created on there and having an autonomous search ran for yourselves is the more viable option, I would say.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Leon has sent us the link, which Adam also had.
Fantastic.
Sorry, Leon. We'll find them. So just touching on a point Adam made earlier very quickly in terms of, he spoke about obviously his experiences mainly working for small providers. Historically, other than the company I work for now, mine have always been small providers. And the majority of people watching tonight probably will come from that small, medium-sized organization. Is there anything that they can do to compete with maybe larger organisations that might employ somebody that specialises in tenders, has a focus as part of their role on that? Thinking maybe like a registered manager that is thinking, oh, actually, let's go for this framework in terms of getting more work, don't really have time. Obviously, they can use your services, but is there anything key that they can think about to stay competitive?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of our processes that we implement with all of our clients, whether they're a new client or they're a client that we've worked with for 10 years, is we qualify in each client appropriately for the tender. It's something that we can assist with, prior to getting you quoted. So what I would suggest for people who are maybe just starting out or who are just starting to think about getting into the public sector is, bidding too high too soon would be an example. So, if you're a new provider that's never won a contract before, we would advise against probably trying to start out bidding for £200 million single supplier contracts in central London. You need to take a more realistic approach, start on broader, more multi-provider frameworks, start by securing a few packages through there and then expanding and grow sustainably that way. So, for example, as a new provider, some of the key things that we'll be looking out for is CQC registration. Are there any turnover requirements? Is there anything in the spec that references contract examples? And these are all things that we sort of communicate with the client prior to getting you quoted to make sure that it is the appropriate fit for the client. So if any of your listeners out there, or anyone who comes to listen to this after we've broadcast, if you're uncertain about, it is very daunting getting into this as a newcomer. I can completely understand that. Come to us. We can qualify you in appropriately, and every single time that there's a tender out that you think you might be wanting to go for, whether it's the correct geographical location or it's the correct service provision, we're able to sort of appropriately qualify you in prior to that. Otherwise, I would say, as Katie mentioned before, with the invitation to tender documents and the specification documents, they're your main two go-to documents that you need to be looking out for all of the prerequisite requirements to sort of identify whether it's something that's going to be appropriate for your business or not.
Thank you very much. And please, you mentioned around the whole CQC rating, because I think quite often in some of those manager groups, that's something that we see from providers that have registered their organisation. They're still waiting for that from the CQC, but how that impacts on their businesses. Are you able just to talk to us very quickly about the financial history? Because a number of these procurement and bids need you to have kind of records for the last 5 years to show you're in profit and bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to?
No, go for it.
Yeah, so every tender will have a different kind of financial approach. There'll be a different way of evaluating the financial viability of the business, and depending on what their parameters are, there are a number of options that are available for SMEs. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're qualified out if they don't have sort of 5 years in operation, if they don't have a certain turnover. There's ways around it if you understand the industry. So typically on most tenders, what they'll need to provide is 2 years of full accounts or 3 years of full accounts. If they don't have 3 years, like if they've started the business last year, or if they've started but been dormant for a while waiting for CQC registration, typically there's alternative options. So they can provide cash flow reports, they could provide draft management accounts for upcoming years, and there's often options for them to take alternative approaches, such as using a guarantor. A lot of our clients tend to need this if the tender that they're bidding for is a larger one that has a turnover requirement. And what that means is that they'll partner with either another organisation, or they can use a bank as a guarantor. And what that means is that someone will guarantee that they are available to step in should they fall short of their contractual obligations if awarded the contract. Another option that some of our clients tend to take is they can either bid as a consortium. So what that would mean is that they can partner with another organisation so that they can combine their tools, they combine their resources, their financial history in order to meet the criteria of the tender. It can be quite a complicated process bidding as a consortium. So we offer advice to our clients in terms of what that looks like, what they need to do for the tender. And other options are using subcontractors. So some of our clients will use subcontractors for a financial reason that aren't going to support them in the delivery of the contract. So there are a lot of options, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're excluded. The new Procurement Act 2023 as well makes sure that there are allowances in there to make public sector tendering more accessible to SMEs. Previously, it has been quite difficult. There have been parameters in place where they just don't give you alternatives. But now we're seeing more and more that things like financial viability and things like previous experience, they're giving tenderers alternative options. So if they don't have contract examples, they can give a 500-word response explaining why they still can safely and effectively deliver the work. And that type of thing is becoming more and more common. So public sector tenders are more accessible than ever, but it's best to kind of get advice, get a bit of understanding of what you're approaching before you start. And probably the number one tip that I would give to SMEs starting out in bidding is get a clear view of what you're interested in and try and get involved in it as soon as possible, because it's going to be more difficult and more stressful if you leave it 3 days before the bid needs to be submitted before you decide you want to go for it.
But again, Mark, just with going back to your original point about the financial viability, it is a daunting task. It is something that obviously all SMEs need to take into consideration. But again, it is something that we are more than capable of helping you with, sort of helping people navigate through that in terms of qualifying them in prior to getting you quoted for said opportunity, you know, just helping you sort of navigate through the documentation, give you a little bit of advice. All of that is something that, you know, we're able to offer that. So I don't suffer alone. You know, it is it's a minefield to navigate if you are a provider coming into this with fresh eyes. So, you know, it's something that we're more than happy to assist you guys with. Not a problem.
Well, you won't be assisting me because I'm going to love no money will I be doing anything like this. No, I'm joking. The consortium thing I find interesting though, because you just broke a memory of mine way back when I was a wee nipper. I used to do home care, and we were trying to get trying to tender for a contract with the council because they were like, oh, only certain people can use these, do this, blah 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 blah. And we were like really remote, and we were just like, you know what? No, screw it. We can't meet the needs of this because they want us to go out of area and do all of this, and we're just like this one tiny little area. And one of the options for us was to go into a consortium with other home care providers in the area to go in and jointly get that sort of package from the local authority, and then we would split those sort of packages of care that came out between us, and it would, you know, it'd be all amazing. We'd all be quids in, and we could all do our care in our own little areas. We decided not to and went off contract, and they gave us what we want because no one else would come out to our area, which we told them that would be the case, but they didn't listen. But I suppose that consortium angle is definitely something that the smaller home care providers that may be sort of struggling to make ends meet at the minute and wanting to sort of branch out a little bit more and have that bit of security is something they could consider to sort of boost up their portfolios and have that working partnership with other providers in the areas. Sorry, come into comment if you want. Maybe I'm talking absolute BS.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely right. So it can be a good access point for some buyers, for some suppliers, sorry. Things like consortia bidding, subcontractor bidding, it gets a foot in the door. It gets you some experience so that the next tender that comes up, you have that to back you up. You have numbers, you have statistics of what you've delivered in order to be able to access higher and higher value contracts moving forwards.
I mean, look at this. I could go out and write bids and tenders already now. I'm getting dead excited about this. It's like it's not even part of my job. I'm thinking, right, what tenders can I go and bid for? I'm learning. But if I am going to go out there are going to be obvious pitfalls that people fall into. There are going to be sort of challenges afoot. What are some of the most common challenges providers face? And what are some of the things that, you know, if you could grab someone and say, look, before you go out and bid on this tender, don't do this because it won't go your way. What are some of those things? Kate, I'm going to come to you first.
Yeah, so I think some of these we've touched on already, but using AI blindly can be a really big pitfall. It's really tempting, I think, if you're new to bidding, if you're not 100% sure what you're doing, to just plug the question into AI and chuck that in there, but it's not going to get you very far, and it's going to probably put you more in the weeds than where you started. Something else that we tend to see coming up is copy and pasting blindly. So utilizing content that you've used for previous bids, that you've maybe even used for this buyer before, or you've answered kind of a similar question if you have done bids before. If you copy and paste swathes of information that isn't actually written for the question you've been asked, but for a sort of similar question, it's not going to be fit for purpose. It's not going to be concise, clear, hitting all of the evaluation criteria. And you're just going to, again, make things more convoluted for yourself. It's best to start off fresh. The bid should be bespoke for every single new tender that you're bidding for. As well as this, obviously, we've already touched on kind of how confusing and convoluted some of the tender documents can be, but not reading or not understanding the requirements properly or correctly can be the most immediate and the fastest way to fail. So if you rush through the documents, or you don't read all of the documents, you don't fully read through the specification, you don't know what it is that you're writing about. You don't know what the project is that you need to deliver. And if you don't understand what you need to deliver, how can you effectively write about it in a kind of convincing and effective manner? In terms of challenges, I think Henry can touch on this a little bit more as well, but kind of writing compelling responses, this needs to be a very kind of all holistic approach. So there's so many things that you need to be doing with compelling responses. You need to be meeting the criteria. So things like fonts that have been specified, the word count, page count. You need to be kind of touching on all the points of the question. You need to be hitting the marking criteria exactly. You need to be referring to the specification, all whilst explaining who you are as a provider. So there's so many kind of pieces that need to come together for the response to be effective and for it to be competitive. And it can be really confusing. And as long as you understand what it is that you're bidding for from the beginning, and that you understand the evaluation criteria, that's the best place to start. Read through everything really clearly, probably 3 or 4 times if you need to bid in. Utilize the glossary from the tender documents. Make sure that you understand what you're bidding for before you start writing the bid, and then approach that from an area of expertise rather than a speed approach of utilizing AI.
So I've gone from really excited to start bidding and tendering to being absolutely terrified now that I'm going to get it completely wrong. And it's a good job that www.bespokebids.com exists, isn't it? Because I'm going to need your help if I ever go down this route. No, but that was really informative, because for me, I mean, so foolishly thinking, oh, I can go and do this. Absolutely fine. I haven't even considered that I might have like a word count or fonts and stuff that I need to use and all that stuff. So no, really, really, really important stuff. And I'm glad I've asked. Henry, challenges. What are we looking at facing? Anything that you want to add?
Well, not much more than what Katie already stated. To be fair, I think the main challenge that most SMEs or most of our new clients that they face is just the time and the effort that it would take to write a bid response yourself. You know, it's not an easy task. There is a reason that, you know, providers use us, that use our services, that they employ the use of a professional bid writer. And I think the main thing to look out for, like Katie already mentioned, is making sure that you can deliver on the specification of the works. You know, understanding sort of how are you going to be able to best showcase your service and your capabilities to meet the contract. You know, the thing with, you know, innovation is you need to display clearly the benefit and the advantage that it will bring to the buyer. You know, what problem are you going to solve? If they've not asked for it and you're proposing it, then they won't want to pay you for it unless you can explain why they should. The people that we work best with, the clients that we have the best experiences with and the best results with, are the clients that work collaboratively with us. We're working to a common understanding that, you know, this is something that they do want to go for. They have thoroughly read through the tender documentation, and they are absolutely all in for it in terms of making sure that we hit all of the deliverables and hit all of the criteria points for when it comes to the evaluation. So I would just say, to summarize, if you're a provider getting into this and you're seriously considering, you know, breaking into the public sphere, understand what it is that you're applying for and inform yourself accordingly. with the help of, with ourselves as well, like I mentioned before, that's something that we do offer assistance for, to make sure that it is something that you're appropriately qualified in for and that you can deliver the services on once you've been successful on the framework and you're then at the stage where you're accepting the packages of the care.
As well as that, I think kind of Henry did touch on it briefly there, but one of the big challenges that we see with our health and social care clients is that this is not their day job. Their day job is much more important. They're caring for people in their homes, they're caring for people in supported living, they're dealing with safeguarding incidents, they're dealing with kind of making sure that people are being looked after. And they can't really kind of align their day in the way that we can. They don't know from one day to the next what's going to happen, what they're going to get called out to. We often work with registered managers or with directors of smaller care companies, and very often there'll be a day where they just can't look at the tender, they can't jump on a call because they're dealing with someone's health and safety, they're dealing with a staff member's called in sick, so they need to go and deliver care themselves. So having someone like us in place to support them means that this is still moving forwards. We're the ones that are sweating the small stuff for them while they can focus on doing their day job and keeping people safe.
No, thank you very much. I think for me, just some advice off the back of the tenders that we did, definitely after the first one, is I think because you've got that word count or the page count, you kind of stick to that. You're trying to cram in all your best practice, but you need to also remember the basics as well. So I mean, we won the bid and we did ask for feedback, obviously knowing that we were going to go for another. And that's one thing they spoke about. So one of the questions was around our staff team and how we onboard staff and bits and pieces. And we missed the basic in terms of that safer recruitment, the DBS, the references. I mean, luckily it didn't obviously go against us, but actually something so basic that we were talking about, kind of our induction program and how we mentor staff and all the training that we offer, that we forgot kind of those simple things. So I definitely think, as well as showcasing what you do differently from other providers, you need to tick those boxes in terms of the basics of how you keep your service and the customers or the adults that you're supporting safe.
Absolutely.
Just touching on that word count element, because I know how hard some of the questions are, and I know for the bids that we did, the questions that you think, oh, we need loads of word count for, you don't get that, and it's the other way around. We obviously use things like images and diagrams to show what we would have put in Word. Is there any tips in terms of anything else that you would recommend to providers to reduce that word count, but to get across what they're trying to say if they're very limited on kind of that final push?
So I think we need to be careful with things like images, diagrams, attachments, because there's going to be parameters in the tender as to whether those are permitted. Some tenders, they will not accept additional attachments, they will not accept images or tables, or if they do, you might submit that as a separate attachment, and then unbeknownst to you, if you've missed this, they're going to include the words in the diagram in your word count, and then you've blown the whole thing and they're not going to evaluate the last chunk of it. So you need to be really careful. One of the kind of key elements of the bidding process is conciseness. You need to be writing with brevity, and making sure that what you're putting out there is very clear, it's very to the point. So we take a point evidence explain approach to everything that we write. And basically what that means is that for every point that you make, so for example, kind of we are experienced in delivering supported living care, you need to back that up with evidence. So that would be kind of, we've delivered supported living services to Lancashire County Council for 32 service users over the past 12 months. And then you need to explain what that means. So for this example, it would be kind of this comparable experience has informed our approach to delivering services. It means that we have the scale that we need for this contract. We have the staff, systems and processes in place to deliver supported living services in this way. So you don't need to put in a lot of flowery kind of fluff. You don't need to kind of spend a lot of time going into extensive detail. You need to basically kind of bang, 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 point evidence explained, all the way through, and use the word count really kind of clearly. So we tend to split the question out into the different key sections, determine right at the very start how many words we're going to use per section, which are the most important sections. So things like safeguarding, things like specifics that they've highlighted in the bid pack, they're all going to be really, really important. So we know that we need to spend a little bit more word count on those, and put a lot of evidence in to support our point. The more examples you include to demonstrate what you've said that you can do, the better, because you don't really need a lot of words within an example to demonstrate that you can take the appropriate response, you can make the kind of decisions and deliver the service that they're looking for.
So basically, they want outcomes, not bullshit.
Exactly.
And the word counts are there to be adhered to as well. You know, I understand what you're saying about, you know, additional diagrams and stuff, but the buyer, when it comes to evaluating these tenders, they've put a strict word count in there for a reason, and providers who are going to score don't take liberties on it at all.
So, if you are a social care provider and you've never done a bid or a tender before, and you're thinking, oh my God, how do I navigate this document? Think of your PIR, because that's all I'm getting is PIR PTSD right now, because word count, you know, no bullet points, you can't add images, you can't do this, you can't do that. And they want practical examples. They don't want you to go, oh, and anyone ever watched the film Bean? Mr. Bean, the first one where he goes to, I want to say it's like Los Angeles or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
He has to give a speech about Whistler's mother, and he's like, why is Whistler's mother's painting so expensive? This painting is so expensive because, and you know, like when you're just trying to fill a word count on something like that. Yeah, no waffle, tangible facts. This is what we've done. This is how we've proven it. This is our track record. Choose us. We're the best, and this is why. Totally getting it.
Yeah.
Loving it all.
Exactly.
I'm back in the zone now. I'm back in the zone. I'm getting ready to do my bidding and my tendering. I'm just going to come to the comments quickly. We have got Petros. Yes, Petros is getting the point of this. Don't copy and paste from AI. Yes, Petros, totally. I'm just going to move myself down.
I just think it's worth touching. Katie, did you already address with, you know, the question about the pitfalls? Did we touch on copying and pasting?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah, we
fine.
did.
Apologies.
Mark's getting a little bit trigger happy. Katie, I was moving you so that our comments didn't block your face. You are the guest on the show, and I didn't want you being recorded. Anita has come in, and Mark just takes us. It's late in the evening now, so yeah, this is where professionalism goes out the window. So Anita's come in saying, I suggest that you can meet all of the requirements of the tender before you decide to bid, to make sure you can provide high quality responses with evidence and examples. This will ensure the highest evaluation scoring criteria is achieved. And I think you both quite touched on that tonight as well with top tips for us. And then we've also had Divine Inspired. Thank you to the Caring View, always coming through for us home care providers. As a nurse of 24 years, I'm still navigating my way through adult social care. You guys have been great. So many nuggets. Take it. That's all you're getting for the year. No more home care after tonight. Divine Inspired. No, I'm teasing you. We are all for the home care side of things in social care. Look, we've not got long left of the episode tonight, and there's already been really, really great tidbits to take away. And like I say, I know I'm teasing, but I feel like I could confidently now start looking at bidding and tendering in a different light. Before we came on live, I was like, oh my god, I know nothing about
You
this.
did say that.
I'm terrified, and I'm not looking forward to this. And it's going to be hideous. Don't ask me any questions. I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm just going to sit here looking pretty.
That's how we feel when people ask us, what do you do for work? You get this like, oh gosh, here we go. You're going to have to try and explain this to someone.
We work in social care. We know exactly how that feels. It's a way to kill a party. It's like, you know, what do you do? And it's like, oh, work in nursing homes. You go,
yeah.
Okay.
Brill.
Yeah. Fabulous. Or every now and then you get the ones that go, oh, that's really interesting. I don't think I could do what you do. And then he turns to my partner and go, what do you do? And he's like, I'm a psychic medium and holistic therapist. And then like I'm just left in the corner on my own while everyone follows him around the party. So yeah, we get that. It's not a glamorous role, anything we do. Right. we've spoken about common challenges, common pitfalls. We've spoken that we need to really know what we're talking about, but give us some sort of tips to make the strongest case possible. Like, bring them all together for us now. So let's do a home run of, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to use AI. I'm not going to copy and paste from previous bids. I'm not adding diagrams. I'm not adding images because they've not asked me for them. I'm not going to do a couple of extra pages. They want it in Comic Sans for some crazy reason, and they only want 500 words an answer or whatever. Right, I've got all of that in my head. How do I make this the best bid ever?
This is all you, Katie.
So yeah, thanks, Henry. Yeah, the kind of starting point you would be demonstrate your credentials. So who are you? Why are you the right person? Who's getting involved from your team? So firstly, how many years experience does your company have? Which contracts have you delivered? How many hours of care? How many service users? Who's leading the charge? So who's your registered manager and why are they your registered manager? How many years experience have they got? What are their qualifications? Why are they the best person for the job? And then you kind of thread that throughout. So all your accreditations, how many staff have you got? How many kind of sites does your business have? Have you got kind of training sites? Just put as much detail into it as possible. And personalize it to who you are, make it completely bespoke for for the project that you're bidding for as well. So talk about the buyer, talk about what you know about the area. If you're delivering domiciliary care in sort of Bury, make sure that you're talking about like VSCAs in Bury, who you're going to work with, what are the social care services that are available there to support a completely kind of multidisciplinary approach to the care. Then you want to make sure that you're meeting the requirements. So things that we've touched on already, financial requirements, kind of experience requirements. Set yourself up right from the outset to make sure you've got everything in place documentation-wise. So you've got the right accounts, you've got the right policies, you've got your pricing with the person that's going to be completing the pricing. One of the most important things to do right at the very beginning of the tender process, as well as kind of collating all of these documents, is getting the right people lined up. So with a lot of the SMEs that we work with, directors of these SMEs in the care sector, they tend to have a good oversight. They usually got some level of on the ground. Sometimes the director's also the registered manager, and that's brilliant. They will have oversight of the business, but they're not going to have specific involvement in every aspect. So they might not be the best person to tell us how the safeguarding approach works. They might not be the best person to tell us how their social value is going to be delivered. Make sure that the right people are lined up with the right expertise to collaboratively attack this thing head on. In terms of experience, then this is one of the most important things in tendering. So almost every tender will have a technical and professional ability requirement. So you usually need to provide between 1 and 3 examples of previous contracts. So make sure that you have some examples in mind, that you've got people lined up, you've got information for those people. So what they usually ask for is the name of the council or the kind of ICB or whatever it was that you worked with, who your contact is there, so the commissioner or whoever it is that you deal with when delivering packages of care for them, their contact details, and a bit of a description of the contract. So when you work with us, you don't really need to kind of articulate everything in full sentences. We ask our clients for just bullet points, give us the headlines, give us the meaty bits, and we will make that look like a tender for you, basically. And all of that experience, all of those kind of credentials, we will put that into the correct method statement approach. So as we mentioned previously, the quality requirement on the tender is the most important. So getting all of this prep work sorted, getting your policies, getting the right people lined up, getting your experience pinned down, all of that is going to feed in to the most effective and the highest scoring method statements when that's combined with the concise, the evaluation focused approach that we take. One of the kind of least favorite aspects of the bid that's probably one of the most important if you want to score those 5s out of 5 is added value. So have a think. When you're going to deliver a tender, have a think about what you do that sets you apart, or what you have that sets you apart. Have you got kind of awards? Have you got accreditations that other care providers don't have? Do you do anything innovative? Have you worked on any kind of pilot programs? Anything like that? That will put you above and beyond everyone else. So once you've got all of these things lined up, what's really important is making sure that every single aspect of this tender, all the different kind of pieces, pricing, the experience, the method statements, throughout all of that, you're accurate, you've got faultless spelling and grammar, you've got really clear alignment with the question, you're using the same wording, you're mirroring what they've asked for in the specification, you're being transparent, so you're using clear, simple, easy to understand language, you're being logical, so that point, evidence, explain, response process that we mentioned, that you're weaving that through everything. Your response needs to be easy to follow, easy to understand, and it needs to be in a clear format. And be thorough as well. Do your research. If you haven't delivered work in this area before, Google it, have a little look into what is in the area, have a little look into who you could be working with, have a chat with charities, have a chat with anyone that you know that does work there. Because obviously, as we're all aware, small healthcare organisations tend to know a lot of other small healthcare organisations. So utilise that network, utilise that understanding that they can give you, and then be engaging. So make sure that you sell yourself with really interesting examples, really clear information. As much as the point of a tender is to respond to the tender in the way that you've been asked for, evaluators are reading a lot of these one after another. And if your response is boring, they're not going to remember it. They're not going to score you as highly. Even if all of your information is in there, it's nice and kind of compliant. If you haven't got amazing added value, if you haven't got interesting examples, you are going to come across quite boring and forgettable. So it's important to sell yourself, be really human. Health and social care is a human sector, and AI just can't humanly engage yet a reader in the way that you need to in order to deliver the work that they're asking for.
So, for starters,
sorry, I'll give you a bit of a soliloquy.
No, I love it. I love it. And we don't have loads of time left, and I've got a million questions still. So, you were saying that a lot of tenders will ask for 1 to 3 previous tenders that you've been a part of.
Yeah.
How do you gain experience with tenders if you've got to have experience with tenders to get a tender?
Oh, it's a chicken and an egg situation. We come across this quite a lot. So with this technical and professional ability approach, as we mentioned, you can get that in a number of ways. You can do it as a consortium. If you haven't got your own contract rate, you can do it as a subcontractor. If you have not done that, if you have not kind of got any experience yourself, you've got no experience in that capacity, on almost every tender, there will be an alternative response option. So there'll be another question after this technical professional ability question that says, in 500 words, if you don't have any contract examples, please explain how your experience and your kind of past works will provide assurances that you can deliver this contract. This can be a really difficult question to write because it's just a big blank box and they want to know, who are you and what have you done and why is it fit for purpose? So we've got a really kind of tailored approach to answering this, which hits the nail on the head every time. And it's just a really kind of clear, woven together, your experience mixed with the specification, mixed with demonstrating that you understand what this is for. So if you go on a big long rant in that section about how you're fantastic at delivering domiciliary care, but the contract is for extra care, it's not going to fly. So you need to make sure that it's tailored, that you're kind of demonstrating that. And you can be awarded contracts without prior experience by utilising this approach, as long as you get it right.
Fab. Thank you. Henry, I saw you on mute. Do you want to come in on this one a bit, or?
No, couldn't have put it better myself.
Oh, perfect. Mark, I promise you, I'm going to come back to you. I just got 2 more. Just got 2 more.
Yeah, go for it.
Is it always writing, or because Lord knows I love a reference, I love some sort of pop culture sort of thing. You're telling me that we've got to make this fabulous and we've got to do this wonderful. I want to be Elle Woods from Legally Blonde, where I'm doing a presentation video and I'm like, la da da, look how amazing we are. Is it all really boring writing, or are there other types of submissions that you can do? Because I'm just thinking accessibility as well. I've got dyslexia, I've got another cognitive or a learning disability. This is the best way that I present myself? Is it best for me to just hire someone to write it, or are there alternative methods of delivery at any point?
It is interesting that you should say that, actually, because we've worked on a tender. I'm sure Katie's probably thinking about this right now. We worked on a tender recently where, as part of the submission, that there was a video submission. So the client needed to submit I can't remember, was it a 10-minute long video, Katie?
6 minutes, very
Is that what it was?
specific. 6
Yeah.
minutes.
But that is usually what you will find, is that's usually interwoven within the body of the main response. So the vast majority of your response is going to be weighted through quality and through writing. And then there can be additional methods of evaluation, such as, for example, that one there with the video submission. There is also interview stages with some tenders where you will go to an interview stage and you will complete it that way. But unless, Katie, you can think of anything else, that's the only thing I can think that springs to mind.
Within public sector tendering, it tends to be this similar approach. In most instances, it's going to be essay style questions, or it's going to be kind of tick boxy exercises.
Oh, you're saying essay. Do you know what? For some reason, I always thought it was like an abbreviation of SA, and I was like,
oh, sorry, I'm just too northern.
Listen, I'm northern as well, so don't worry about that. But for the entire show, I was trying to think in my head, what does SA stand for?
Sorry,
I'm so
essay.
stupid. It's me. Essay style, right? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be that. It tends to be that approach, and with public sector tendering, the approach that they've laid out, you need to respond to it in the way that they've asked for. So if they give you a template to fill in and you need to answer those questions, you need to fill it in that template. You can't submit a video instead. But a lot of the time there are alternative aspects to it. So as Henry said, on a recent tender, we needed to submit a 6-minute video alongside those questions. We often have tenders where there'll be sort of a second stage. So after they've got through the first stage of the tender, the provider will then need to go for an interview on site with the buyer. It is completely different though in the private sector. So in the private sector, they tend to have kind of a vast variety of different ways you can do it. It can be kind of a proposal document. It can be kind of a video response. Sometimes, although not so much nowadays, it can be a physical submission. So when I've worked in-house before, you've been panicking on the last day trying to get the UPS guy to turn up and take the report to the submission point, and they don't really do that anymore. But most of the time, when you come into a sector in health and social care, it will be those written responses.
I mean, it's fine. It's okay. But I would like to do like a spoken piece. Could you imagine like some spoken word delivery of like slam poetry of how I can meet this tender?
It'd make the evaluation process a lot more interesting. I'll tell you that much.
Honestly, it's what I'm thinking. It's why I deliver it in like Klingon or something. Just something that makes you stand out. My final one before I come to Mark and realise that we are over the show tonight is someone is Braintree Dementia Action Alliance have come in and said, is it worth using the voice of those who use the care service as part of your bid?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Anything that you can include that demonstrates who you are, if it's from the perspective of the people that you're caring for, that's going to strengthen your response so much. Make sure, though, that you do have their permission if you're going to use any personal information. So don't use their name, don't use any of their personal details unless they've given you permission to do so. But one thing that we like to weave throughout our bid responses is answers to service user surveys, or kind of quotes from the CQC report, quotes from feedback they've had from families or from the service users themselves on how they've experienced the care. What we want to be demonstrating in health and social care tenders is that the care that's being delivered is person-centered, it's kind of strengths-based, it's treating the person as an individual, and anything that you can provide that supports that narrative is going to massively strengthen your response. So yeah, it's definitely a good idea.
It's really, really important. Katie mentioned it, but one of the things that I try and get across to a lot of our clients is, like Katie said, the evaluators are reading several responses one after the other. You need to make your response stand out. It needs to be something that's personable and it's going to pop for all the right reasons. And getting that personability in there, getting the voices from different aspects of the business in there is invaluable.
Yeah, and on that, I know that we're running out of time, so we'll be quick. But on that video that we mentioned, that video was basically tell us about how your company delivers person-centered care, get people from your company involved, have them on the video, have like the voice of service users involved. So it is really important to buyers that they get that perspective. It's much stronger than you telling them what you can do and how your service users feel about you.
I just want to do a Legally Blonde style video now. Mark, you need to find me a reason to do like an Elle Woods campaign video. I just need something along the lines. Oh, I was going to say something then, but we didn't put last week's show up. I was going to say I could campaign for the role of somebody, but I won't. Mark,
you can do an Elle Woods video this weekend, so that will give you something to do Saturday.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I might campaign. I might do an Elle Woods video of why Lego need to gift me their new Star Trek model that comes out later on this year, 'cause it's going to be 650 quid, and I know I can't spend 650 quid on the Lego bricks. So I might do like an Elle Woods Star Trek combination video of why I should be gifted a free Star Trek item. Mark, over to you.
Yes, I am conscious of time, so I'll ask one last question. But I think, Katie, Henry, we'll have to have you back to do a part 2, because I think there's so many other questions that kind of I'd written down around kind of how to remain competitive versus pricing, around unsuccessful, successful bids and debriefing and lessons learned for future bidding and bits and pieces. Yeah. But I am conscious of time. Just from both of you, any advice, any tips that we haven't mentioned today? What would be one thing that you would recommend to a provider stepping into kind of the bidding tendering space? Henry, I'll come to you first.
I was going to say, my advice would be do your research, understand the nature of what you may or may not be getting yourself into, and understand that this is a highly competitive market. And there is a reason that, you know, people employ our bid writing services to essentially get the job done. It's something that you don't have to go in alone. It doesn't have to be a daunting task. Come to us. Let us help you to understand, you know, the qualifications, the prerequisite requirements, and then ultimately understand the bid writing process if you do choose to use us. And yeah, it's absolutely it's the best way to grow your business if you are an SME in the public sector for care, without a doubt. So yeah, just do your research and lean on us as much as you want, because we're here to help.
Thank you very much. And Katie, just before I bring you in, I was just going to say, on your website, there's so many different articles around if you're ready for tendering, things to think about, buyer's rules, contract frameworks, public versus private. So definitely go and check out bespoke-bids.com for those articles. Katie, any final tips from you?
Yeah, I think my kind of final tip would be to just accept help from as many kind of avenues as possible. Have a look on BidUp, have a look on our website, get yourself up to speed before you get into this process, because it's going to be complicated, it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be potentially a completely new experience for you. So make sure that you're prepared before you start, to minimize the stress and to minimize the kind of impact on yourself. I would also say the reason that businesses like ours exist is to support SMEs. We're really, really passionate about supporting SMEs within the health and social care sector. Quite a lot of our clients speak English as a second language, and unfortunately, public sector procurement is not designed for people. It's not accessible in the way that it should be. And so in order for people to understand the bidding documentation, in order for them to respond in the way that the evaluators need them to, we're here to help. And I would also sort of shout out, have a look at our Trustpilot. You'll see for yourself exactly how passionate we are and exactly how experienced and professional and supportive our team can be.
Thank you very much. I think the only thing, and we did touch on around presentations, and I'll hand to Adam to close us out, is just to have a contingency backup just from one of the bids that we did. We had to do a presentation. We had the presentation team. Timescales move in terms of tenders. There can be delays, and it turned out that the whole team that we had were then all on holiday. I mean, luckily we all either came back or cancelled leave and rearranged things, but just have a contingency in terms of if there are delays to that tender, who's going to be the backup if somebody goes off sick and they're leading on that process, who's going to
Yeah.
take over from that, and just carve out time for anybody involved, because I think it is going to be an additional add-on that people don't really think about, but you need that time set aside for really thinking and focusing on it.
Yeah, it's something that I advise to our clients before they come along with us. If you are going to be taking leave, or if you know that there is going to be, the person of contact is going to be going away, then what do you have in place in order to make sure that we can meet the deadlines of the bid and we can still put forward a strong submission in that person's absence? It is very important. It is an involved process to a degree. And the more you put in, the more you get out. Especially for a new company that's coming into this for the first time. If you want to work collaboratively with us and understand the bid process from start to finish, then the more involved that you are in that process, the more you can see how the bid gets shaped and how it finishes for submission. Then there is a certain amount of time that you will need to allocate to do that, or if not yourself, another appropriate member of the company.
Thank you very much. Adam, over to you.
Well, I promise you I'm not going to ask any more questions, because like Mark, I've got a million more that I want to ask. But I think we do need to do a one, how to make your bid stand out, how to successfully tender. We need to do something, because I'm gearing now. I'm like, I need to go and find a company that just wants to put a bid in, just so I can have some experience of doing this, because I think it's really, really interesting. Totally shifted my mindset towards it. It's no longer boring. I like anything that's a challenge, and this is a challenge. This is like, I won't name names. I have to try and be professional, but those companies out there who constantly just like apply for awards in social care, and they've got to like write why they're the best and blah 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 blah. Very much like that, isn't it? It's the same sort of process of sort of selling yourself. So yeah, I think really interesting, really interesting, and I've honestly really loved tonight's show. I've gone from absolutely terrified that I'm going to look like an idiot to looking like an idiot, but really enjoying it.
No, you haven't.
I thought she was saying SA for like the most of this show, Katie. I thought you were like SA, and I was like, I have no idea what this abbreviation is.
In fairness, I am from Hull, so it's not your fault.
I don't blame you, Adam. I mean, you did well to come to the conclusion that that's actually what she was saying, to be honest.
But no, look, I thoroughly enjoyed it. www.bespokebids.com, www.bidop.com. Please do go check them out. Henry, Katie, you have both been absolutely amazing this evening. Mark and I will no doubt be in touch to arrange a follow-up show. Definitely something that we're keen to look into. Any sort of resources, any blogs that you've got that you want our listeners to be able to have access to, send us the links. We will push them out there as well, and we will get people involved. The only other thing is, Petros, you have mentioned something in the comments saying that I'll just say use the star method and keep quiet. I have no idea what the star method is. So Petros, get in touch with me and let me know what it is, because I don't like not knowing stuff. I want to know what this is. The Caring View, www.thecaringview.co.uk, completely free to access, always will be free to access. Because of our fabulous sponsors, we've got Prosperwell, we've got Care Business Associate Training, Attis Care by Attis Insurance Brokers, Log My Care, Florence and Learningment, Health Automated Online, Every Step Care Consultancy, and I think I did them all really, really quick then. So apologies if I missed one of them off. But until then, Mark, next week, what are we chatting?
Next week we are. We're not. We're off for 2 weeks. So yeah, we've got a 2-week break. I'm off to Paris with the kids.
Paris.
Yes, we're off to climb the Eiffel Tower.
A croissant and escargot.
Yeah.
With the exclusive pre-holiday pre-holiday webinar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Honoured.
You could come out to Paris, Adam, and we'll do one in France. We'll go find Emily in Paris's cafe, because that's on my list of things to do.
Never watched Emily in Paris.
Oh, you're missing out.
But Paris does seem extremely gay and something that I'd be totally up for. It is Pride Month. Will it still be Pride Month when you go? When do you go?
No, I'll be in July.
It's still Pride Month for me. Every month is Pride Month.
Exactly.
You see, I don't buy into commercialism. Don't do that sort of rubbish. And the flag's out for 30 days and 30 days only. I forgot what we were talking about now. Oh, so we're not on next week. 2 weeks off. Absolutely fabulous. That being said, we have got an episode going out on the podcast every week until September, so do go check that out. Go listen to some of our past ones. Won't be long until I think about 6 days until your DSPT is due, so go check out that one. CQC podcast is up there. PIRs are still flying around, so go check out our PIR podcast. But like I say, catch-ups are going up every single week. YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, if that still exists. I know Google doesn't anymore, but you can find us on there. So until then, we will see you in fortnight's time. Do keep in touch. We will put on socials when our next show is. Don't forget about us. Subscribe to everything. And we'll see you all soon. Henry, Katie, thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having us on.
Good evening.